on ballots. On ballots, when they decided to convert my then public middle school into the charter high school that I eventually attended. And now, yes. Now, my first canvassing job was also with Kenyatta Johnson for state representative, and for Barack Obama at age 16 and 17. Like many of you here, my involvement with Reclaim Philadelphia began and starting really with its roots in the Bernie Sanders campaign of 2016. But my involvement really kicked off when I went to various meetings. There's meetings where I got to meet members of like mind, people who a community that believe in true justice and peace in our city and the world. One of the meetings I went to, actually there was a list on the wall of values that I agreed with, including reparations for the descendants of slaves, of which I am one. Like most black people of my generation in the city, I'm a fifth generation descendant of slaves. Now also, the demographics of my neighborhood have changed largely since 2010. Growing up, my neighborhood was largely black, East and Southeast Asian, and foreign working class. Today, it is greatly whiter, higher income and wealthier. And there have been many people who have been displaced. Now, I've heard in life, all too often, that when it comes to change, we are often told that change is good. It's good, and nothing but good. But we all know that that's not necessarily the case. Here in Philadelphia, the change that we have often seen has been gentrification, displacement, and the destruction of irreplaceable historical assets and communities. The change that we need, however, the change that we have begun to see with the election of more of our movement members into high office, is a change that is about lifting people up and not pushing people out. Now, a change that is about a city where its redevelopment is rooted in its history, in the better angels of its history, and its past. Whereas we as a city, can actually come together around the things that makes our values what has inspired this country and this world for now going on 340 years. Now, guys, our pride in this city goes a lot deeper than just a football team. Our pride comes from living in a city that was founded as a holy experiment. As a place of refuge for people, like my own ancestors who came north from the south, fleeing racial terror. Now, guys, it's important to notice here that, in closing, I want us all to know that we need a city that is assured of itself, where we can have a city council that is willing to stand up for its people and for the world. So this is a city that was once considered to be the favorite, to be a capital of the world. So there is no reason at all why we cannot speak on the things that affect the world. Because every issue that is global is in fact truly local, and that works for peace. Is in fact truly local, and that works for peace in our streets, as also peace in Gaza. We could have a city council that works for peace in Gaza, as well as peace in Haiti, peace in Congo, peace in Sudan, peace in Syria, peace in Afghanistan, and peace in Ukraine. There is no reason why this city cannot speak to those issues, not with the power that this city holds. There is no reason why this city cannot not be one that invests, yes, in our parks, but also also invest less in the ideas of a Green New Deal and reforestation for this country and for this planet. For this planet. We can have a Green New Deal in Philadelphia that inspires this nation and the rest of the globe. Now, it is also important that we remember that this is why we build our relations. This is why we build our assets in this city. And also to remember that our city does in fact have assets, not just deficits. Deficits. We can build upon what our city has already done. This is a city of firsts. This is a city that birthed a revolution. This is a city where nations have been born. There's nothing we cannot do. This is why we build solidarity at our multiracial working class, so that we can have leaders that will live by our progressive values, and that will stand hand in hand with us in times that we need. For as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King once said, the ultimate measure of a person is not where they stand in times of ease and comfort, but rather where they stand in times of discomfort and difficulty. Hey, it is important that this city and this multiracial working class take its rightful place in the governance of this city, nation, and world. And now, I am asking all of you in this sacred space, gathered here today, to once again, and as the founders did, miles from here, I want you to declare, and for many of you reaffirm, your independence from apathy, your independence from neutrality, your independence from complacency. And I invite all of you to indeed reclaim your power to change our world for the better. For we ourselves, our progeny, and their posterity to come, by continuing to fight for and as Reclaim, and by joining Reclaim and our movement family at all levels to build the world we all want, need, and so richly deserve. Thank you very much.
That's a tough act to follow. Nigel really gets us in our guts, and I just want to first start by saying how excited I am to see so many folks in this room who I know are completely committed to this work, and I appreciate you all being here to keep us moving forward today. My name is Liz Schlingman. I am a neighborhood-based building organizer with Reclaim Philadelphia. I'm also a Democratic committee person here in the 46th Ward and a proud West Philadelphian for over 2 decades. So, what's up, West Philly? The community that we built here, both within and beyond the collection of members and allies, we call Philadelphia as a special one. At this moment in our history, it can be easy to take for granted the relationships we built and the power that we have reclaimed in the 7.5 years since our founding as something common and expected. But if you talk to folks across this country who don't have the luck of finding rooms like this one, you'll hear pretty quickly that this is something special that we have here. And it's something that we must continue to nurture and build and protect in order to solidify this moment in the movement towards people power as more than just a fleeting one. Our work to make government more responsive to the real needs of day-to-day Philadelphians is built on a long legacy of neighbors of this perfect city coming together to fight for justice. And I want to take a moment to recognize that our ideas of progress and solidarity and power are built on several generations of multiracial organizers and working class community leaders that have won gains in civil and workers' rights and have made equal representation in government a full reality in this city. The previous generations have fought to build the platform on which we stand to push the limits of justice to a more perfect expression. And I want to appreciate that many of those we wrestle with for power today in our local body politic have created the conditions that make it possible for us to fight for even more. This legacy has culminated this past year in the election of the first Black female to ever serve as mayor, Sherelle Parker. Her victory was won through the building of a coalition that was decades in the making. And we should consider how we can work in partnership with this coalition where our interests align. And that includes more transparent and equitable city services, greater investment in sustainability and green spaces, expansion of mobile mental health crisis responder units citywide, just to name a few examples. We can also learn from her work how the relationships we are forming today build towards a stronger coalition for fights that we want to win in decades to come. In Reclaim, we take power analysis very seriously. We're always organizing towards the world we want while acknowledging the world that we're in. And that means organizing with this administration where our values align and working to hold it accountable where they don't. I want to ground my own story in history by sharing what little I understand about my roots. Like many white Americans, the cultural heritage and identity of my ancestors was traded for assimilation and access to economic privileges accorded to those with our skin color. And this was an act of survival, often an escape from poverty, and in the case of my family, that poverty still persists in many ways today. By the time I came into the world, there were almost no cultural traditions or even stories of where my family came from that were shared. What was passed down, in addition to an expectation of better times ahead, that was the promise of hard work and long hours, was a legacy of struggle, poor mental health, physical abuse, and the physiological disease of trauma that literally seeps through our generational DNA when struggle and bootstrapping are your day-to-day experience. These are just some of the ways in which white supremacy impacts white people too. And it's why when I stand in solidarity to win a better quality of life for all working class people, it's not just a matter of what is moral and what is right, but out of a yearning to regain a sense of wholeness for myself, for my family, that is based on a positive idea of who we are as a people, where we come from, and an acknowledgement that our own inherent worth is no better or no worse than anyone else's. My parents, with just a high school education, managed to hustle their way into the suburban dream. Housing at the time was affordable for working class people, even though this dream was only largely accessible for whites. I was raised in a community of people who had much more than my family, but my mom taught me how to present myself in such a way where you couldn't see the struggles in my household, or that my fitting in was largely financed through consumer debt. But I did access a good public education and became the first in my extended family to go to college. I was a good girl, I got good grades, and did the things that were expected of me in order to survive and try and escape the suffering of my home to some kind of independence. But although perfectionism got me access to the world of privilege gained through higher education, it didn't show me how to sustain myself once inside. My struggles from my years of trauma growing up started to take their toll early in adulthood. I quickly learned the hard way that the safety my peers had through family, wealth, and resources weren't accessible to me. So when I struggled, it set me back hard. I didn't yet understand that education alone wasn't going to provide the security that my family never had. And by the time I eventually graduated, my job prospects weren't much better than those of my mother, who didn't need to mortgage her future in student debt in order to access a steady paycheck. After struggling to get my first decent job out of college, like many young people, I moved back home. Within 24 hours of doing so, an incident occurred and I had to put my father in jail for assaulting my sister and I. This event was no different than dozens of others that I had experienced before, but now that I was an adult and could take the only solution the world offered me and my family to get a safe reprieve, which was to incarcerate a loved one, I chose to take that. This was a decision my mother never had the economic independence to take while we were still kids, and no other options were ever made available to our family to get out of the trauma and the cycles of violence. Looking back, I'm angry. Not just at my father's failings, but that this was the only choice I had to protect myself. It not only compounded the trauma we endured, but added to the enormity of healing that my family had to work through. I see this same experience in the lives of so many other families here in Philadelphia. And I know on a deep level that the violence we see in our streets often stems from years of trauma perpetuated by the so-called solutions to crime and how that manifests and what goes on inside of our homes day to day, where the only responses to struggle are punitive ones. From that moment through the decades today, over and over, my experiences of myself and my loved ones continue to prove that no matter how hard we worked, no matter how much I was the good girl and played by the rules, when I needed something to fall back on, there wasn't enough there. Despite all my struggles, I couldn't help but think, I was supposed to be one of the privileged ones now. I was educated, I followed the rules, so why was I still not enough? Most of us are here today because we know the answer is because the bargain of America, of trading our labor for a good quality of life, is further out of reach today than it was a generation or two ago. Today I know that the struggles I faced were not a matter of character flaws or moral failings in my family, but because the structures in which we strive to build our lives are limiting. In order to guarantee that the wealth and security remains always just out of reach for most of us, and remains in the hands of a few. No matter how hard we work, and I don't know about you, but I'm tired and I need things to change. There are certain facts about the time that we're living in. That is the reality of the work that we face ahead. Our democracy is weak. Our Supreme Court is wholly captured by corrupt and nefarious actors and is moving at an increasing pace to diminish our voting rights, as well as the impact of our voice, while promoting the interests of billionaires and oligarchs. The leadership of the Democratic Party, which claims to represent our values, fights our movement at almost every opportunity, instead of the people perpetuating the harms that they claim to be against. We're living through a time of record inequality where the divide between the haves and the have-nots is greater than ever before, and basic needs like housing and food are harder to access than at any time in my 4 decades on Earth. We're living through a resurgence of the backlash of white supremacy in all its forms, even as we make incremental progress in some ways towards dismantling systemic racism. Climate change is real, and we are living with its negative impacts every day, some of us more than others. And it has created an unanswered imperative for change, for the survival for people younger than me, that continues to be reprehensibly unanswered by those who are older and still hold the levers of power. The so-called culture war on reproductive rights and trans rights is an attack on all of our freedoms that we ignore at our own peril. History shows us that attacking the rights of the most vulnerable among us is always going to lead to a priming of the loss of all of our rights. These realities can make us feel disempowered, apathetic, and like there's no vehicle for change. But we've had bigger fights in history and won. And today the global issues are local issues, and change begins in our backyards, or as we should say in Philly, on our front stoops. The things that we can do to inspire other cities have been numerous in recent years. We have inspired new legislation and policy across America, from everything from increased resources on eviction defense to the driving equality law, to Larry Krasner's election sparking movements across the country to elect progressive DAs. In these ways, we continue to be a city of first, keeping alive our history as the founding place of liberty and the future of reclaiming it for all citizens. As a movement, in recent years, we have won some and we have lost some, and change will never follow a straight path. In 2022, following the last election of Democratic committee people, more than 20% of ward committees elected leaders who are now running those wards more openly and democratically. This would not prove to be enough of a power base to elect a movement progressive to the mayor's office or grow our numbers in new district council seats last year, but it lays a solid foundation for us to gain wins moving forward, and we need to double down on that. The movement for open wards, where a progressive independent voice cannot be controlled by party elite, is stronger than ever. Despite the removal of almost 20 committee people in the past few months over their endorsement of the WFP candidates for city council, the most motivated and effective of the foot soldiers of the Democratic Party are doubling down on their commitment to informing and empowering their neighbors to fully understand what is at stake in every election, whether their ward leader recognizes their power or not. Committee people will be crucial in getting out the vote this fall when so many voters are feeling uninspired by our choices in the presidential election, and simultaneously so much is at stake. The most powerful ask to vote comes from a neighbor, a friend, a family member, and the results are clear. When a committee person knocks the doors of their neighbors in support of the candidate wins that division the vast majority of the time. So I ask all of you in this room to consider the last time a committee person knocked your door, and if you can't remember, it's time to think about stepping up or nominating one of your neighbors to run in 2 years. We can also claim to have helped win more progressive seats to city council than almost any other large city in the country, with a few exceptions. Reclaim endorsed candidates including West Philly's Jamie Gaudier, Isaiah Thomas, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Rue Landau, Nicholas O'Rourke, and Kendra Brooks now make up a strong progressive contingent on council and helped elect a council president who will work to support their legislative agenda. We only need 3 more wins in the next cycle to have a progressive majority on city council in 2027. If we continue to organize, we will be successful in achieving this goal. But we do not yet have all the power that we need. Our city is facing a crisis of overdose, and proven harm reduction methods are under attack by the newly formed Kensington Caucus of City Council. In 2022, over 1,400 lives were claimed to fatal overdoses in Philadelphia, the highest number on record. We're also the #1 city for STIs in the country at a time when our city council is actively shutting down organizations that facilitate needle exchange. Politics is being played with human lives. Housing is now unaffordable for half of all U.S. renters, and increasingly the homeownership rate in Philadelphia is declining. But we have an opportunity to increase protections for renters, including reform of current violent eviction processes and mandating more deeply affordable housing development in our zoning code. And while our neighborhood public schools are falling apart and are ridden with toxic materials, we have a governor and a mayor whose administrations have prioritized the expansion of funding for loosely regulated charter schools and private school vouchers. The richest man in PA, Jeffrey Yass, is using this as an axe to divide us politically and destroy our public institutions. We must not let him succeed. And with the new mayoral administration, unfortunately, stop and frisk is now backed with the full power of the mayor's bully pulpit. This at a time when in the past year, we have seen an increase in the use of force, including most recently the extrajudicial killings of Eddie Irizarry and Alexander Spencer. There is so much more we have to fight for. This coming year, we are taking steps to build up the 3 pillars of the theory of change we have identified as an organization. We'll be relaunching our issue organizing work by building a new campaign later this year to use our collective voice to win meaningful policy change and improve the material reality of Philadelphians. This issue campaign will be identified through the sharing of your interests and experiences in our member survey that is being launched today. And you can access via the QR code in your commitment card this survey and begin telling us what we need to most prioritize to work on to make change. Second, electoral power. This spring, we will continue to build power statewide by re-electing our political allies in the House and Senate, help to elect new movement-aligned candidates to these bodies, and putting a progressive in the Attorney General and Auditor General seats. Today, we will hear from powerful candidates for statewide office that are seeking your vote for endorsement. All who stand on this stage with us today have indicated an interest in being in relationship with our organization once elected to office. And that means we need you to stay engaged, not only to help elect those we endorse, but also to add your voice and the relationships you have with your community to strengthen that opportunity to move towards co-governance once we have an ally in office. And lastly, base building is the cornerstone of how we build these relationships in our neighborhoods. Change happens at the speed of trust, and trust is built in our one-to-one conversations and in supporting each other to step into this work. And listening and validating our stories and building solidarity on all those things we find in common when we scratch the surface and share our authentic truths. The real path to community safety is through prioritizing investment in our neighborhoods and community schools. And our voice is stronger when we are fighting together to prioritize investment in our blocks. We will close the meeting today with breakout groups with your neighbors, and I encourage you all to try to make a new connection in that space that you can build on to see your dreams for Philadelphia realized. Regardless of the outcomes of elections and the way the world will turn this year, certain actions are just necessary for the foundations of continued change. There is power in the process of doing this work. I hope you'll all experience today that there is power in winning and changing our material reality, but we need to form stronger relationships because regardless of who is nominated to lead this country at the end of this year, we need each other to push through what comes next. I gain solace in knowing that I don't have to face that alone, and that we and the generations before us have built too much for us to give up hope now. We are stronger when we're together. And with that, I'd like to introduce Sergio Sea, our political director, who will lead our candidate forum.
Hey y'all, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey everyone, my name is Sergio Sea. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the political director of Reclaim Philadelphia. I'm so excited to be in community with all of you. So excited for you to come out for this important day where we're going to start membership endorsement votes. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I got involved with Reclaim. In 2018, while political home shopping, I came to my first citywide event in this same church here in West Philadelphia. I was new to Philly politics, but excited about the amount of powerful electeds and candidates that showed up seeking Reclaim's endorsement. I remember sitting in awe as I saw the then mass liberation organizer and now state representative Rick Krajewski yanking the microphone out of former Congressman and DCC President Bob Brady's hands for going over time. Fair warning, right now for all the candidates, that I will have to do the same to you, whether we recommend you or not. Citywide was my introduction to Reclaim, and later it would be one of the reasons that I chose to get involved. First as a volunteer, and then fully committing to becoming a dues-paying member, and using the humble earnings from my dog walking career. I would like to thank all 17 candidates that submitted questionnaires and sought out our endorsement in this election. It takes a lot to put yourself out there, so I really appreciate it. Our board has made recommendations on each of these races that we're announcing today, and you can read online on the QR codes that are listed on the sheets. But yeah, we're now going to give the candidates an opportunity to address our membership directly before moving into some questions submitted by our membership. So I'm going to call candidates up by their races, so you can come up. I'll go each one, and then we'll try to get through all of the speeches. Like I said, please keep it to 2 minutes. Where is the timekeeper? Kelly is the timekeeper, so she will be letting you know when you're going over. This is good practice. You're going to be doing this a lot this election, so you got to get your tight 2 minutes in there. But yeah, we want to keep things fair and keep our agenda. We're already a little bit behind, but we want to get through as much as we can. So right now I'm going to start with the state representative races, and starting with the 10th district, and we'll go in alphabetical order. I will call Sajda Blackwell for 2 minutes. And I will be holding the microphone.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sajda Blackwell. I am your sister in community here in West Philadelphia. I want to thank you for inviting me here, or allowing me to be here in your space and presence. Also, hola mi gente y mi familia también. All right. So I'm running for state representative in the 10th district. A few things I would like you to know about me in case you don't know much about me. I actually physically, boots on the ground, helped Larry Krasner win his last election. I went door to door. I fought with him against his biggest enemies in the city to establish and secure his election. If you go to the Inquirer in May of 2023, I believe, or 2022, excuse me, you'll see me on the front cover with Larry Krasner because we did the work together. I was viciously attacked for that work, but I did not back down. I also stood with you, with Reclaim, with Amistad Law, to end the career of Judge Denise Brinkley. Not from a desk behind in someone's office, but on the front line. I ended her career and helped you all end her career because she viciously attacked black and brown young men in this city of Philadelphia. It has been detrimental to many lives. So I was happy to use my platform to stand for that cause. And together, we ended a wrong in the city of Philadelphia. I also fought hard and continue to fight for our young people in the city of Philadelphia. Wow. Walter Wallace, when Walter Wallace was brutally murdered, my husband and I went out to save our young people's lives, boots on the ground. We are the only candidates who do that. I was the only candidate to fight back. Because we did, my husband was beat down by 30 police officers on 52nd Street. But still here I stand. I currently feed our community every other Saturday in community on 52nd and Walnut every other Saturday. I pay young people $1,000 to make nonviolent music. And that's why I'm here before you as your sister community, because I am the only candidate who is active, not behind a desk. We have not behind a desk fighting for you. I'm on the street fighting for you as your sister in community, which I will continue to do when I get into the State House. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Also want to shout out thank you to Council Members Rue Landau and Kendra Brooks for making this meeting. I will now call up the next candidate in this race, Cass Green.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And I just want to thank Reclaim. Actually, I'm running for state rep. This is my second run. I actually ran in 2022, and we came in 183 votes short of beating Mr. Amin Brown, who is actually up in Harrisburg and making policies such as mandatory minimum sentencing, and also a part of signing off on the Act 40 bill that just got introduced in December. So thank you for all your efforts to make sure that we got those votes done in 2022. So thank you to Reclaim. I also want to just tell you that I've been working in community for the last 25 years, and my career has included working at People's Emergency Center. I was the director of community partnerships and development for 6 years there, working in 6 neighborhoods of West Philadelphia, a part of the Promise Neighborhood Grant, the Promise Zone, and the Make Your Mark Community Development Plan. I left there to go work in Kensington, where a lot of people thought I was crazy community, but it was very important for me to understand the disparities that go on in communities where poverty and also addiction and other resources that are deficits are materialized on the ground. And I did that for 3.5 years before running for state rep in 2022. After that exciting opportunity, which I include and consider a win today, because we built a coalition and a movement that is still ongoing. I went to work for DA Krasner for the last 2 years, been working with juvenile diversion, victim services, and the data lab, 57 blocks, and now the Act 40 bill. And I'm excited to be before you and ask you that we can continue this movement, this process for peace, power, and progress collectively. So thank you.
Next, I'll be calling Elizabeth Fiedler, running in the 184th District.
Hi, I'm State Rep Elizabeth Fiedler, glad to be here with you today. 6 years ago, I came in front of you the first time that I ran as the parent of 2 young kids, one so young I could still squeeze him into a baby carrier, when I went out to knock doors. I did not have big political connections or money connections, but you all believed in me and gave me your support, and I am so proud of what we have accomplished, our legislative wins and our electoral wins during that time. I've worked very, very hard on funding for school facilities. My kids are now in elementary school, and I care deeply about getting rid of asbestos and lead, and even more, building the 21st century structures that our kids deserve. I've been honored to work with Rep. Rabb on fair taxation and repealing the uniformity clause, and working with many of our colleagues, including Reps. Krajewski and Khan, on Solar for Schools, which is really exciting environmental and labor legislation that will help to transform the future of education going forward. I was distracted by the sign, I apologize. I'm grateful to be here again today, asking for your support as I run for re-election as state reps. Of course, we are up every 2 years, and one of the things that I love the most is going out and knocking doors in our community. And time after time, door after door that I knock, I hear from people on the other side about ways in which my district office, our district office, has helped them pay their utility bills, be able to stay in their homes, has made real improvements in their quality of life. And that's something that I don't take lightly. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do, especially in local office, is serve our neighbors in direct ways that improve their lives. So I hope for your support this time as I head back in for re-election. And again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Reclaim for always having my back.
I do want to mention that we had 2 candidates running in the 188th and the 190th that couldn't make it today, Rick Krajewski and Ronnie Green. We will be uploading some videos from them to our social media for folks who haven't gotten a chance to hear from them in the past. But I'll move on to the next district, which is the 194th, for Tariq Khan.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Tariq Khan. I use he, him pronouns. I'll be brief. I'm not being challenged in this election. 2 years ago, I ran because I felt like we needed the voice of a healthcare champion in our legislature. I felt like so many of our people that needed access to COVID shots were left behind. Our people with struggling to get coverage for healthcare were left behind, forgotten about. And I felt like we needed a voice, someone that would be out, that would be knocking doors, even when their own butt wasn't at stake. And when we needed to secure the majority in the House, and I did that. I worked with my fellow representatives who were in here, and Senator Saval, to knock doors, to help flip the House, to make sure that we had a Democratic majority. As a state representative, I passed 7 bills that I've led on, and I just want to highlight 3 of them. One is medical debt cancellation. Governor Shapiro has promised $4 million, which translates to $400 million of debt cancellation in Pennsylvania. The second one is affordable housing. I almost doubled what we spent on affordable housing with the bill with Senator Murato. And Governor Shapiro has also pledged to fund that to a tune of $100 million in his next budget. And finally, fighting for the rights of workers. With my leadership, I helped to write the bill. We passed the Patient Safety Act, which would have safe minimum nurse staffing ratios in hospitals. And I believe we will get that passed in the Senate. So I just want to say thank you for your support. I'm continuing to fight the progressive cause. I have other bills that I'm fighting for, making sure that people get credit for paying rent, paying for their utilities to build their credit, addressing wealth disparities in our communities, and I will be a progressive champion if you will support me again. Thank you so much. Thank you. And even if you don't, I'll still be
All right, up next we have the 200th District with Chris Rabb.
Hey folks, Rep. Rabb here, holding it down in Northwest. This is my 4th term. I wasn't supposed to have won in 2016, but we won. So we know it's possible. So I got to see all the progress of all these other amazing candidates do what the establishment said couldn't be done. And now that we're in the majority, friends, in the House, we're getting stuff done. We passed over 200 bills within just a few months of taking leadership. I'm really proud that my bill to repeal the death penalty, which is a legacy of lynching and systemic racism, passed out of Judiciary Committee. I'm proud of so much of the work that's been done by other colleagues, because when you make it to the legislature, you don't do it alone. You don't do it alone. And I'm fighting the good fight because I'm inspired by those of you who have been active and engaged in our communities. That's what matters. Look, it's bizarre for me to say this, but no one's running against me. I beat the machine 3 times with your help, but they decided to stop getting their asses kicked. So, you know, and by the way, most of the ousted committee people, my district, all right? So there's a connection there. They're afraid of us, and we should be happy about that, because when we are together, we're gonna kill it. We're gonna kill it. But it happens here. This is the people power we need. It does influence what happens in Harrisburg. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is the work. So I'm not looking for your endorsement. I'm looking for your help. The work of those of us who are already in office doing the work. We can't do it alone. I need you to show up and stand up and fight the good fight. Thank you.
All right, up next we have the 201st District with Andre Carroll.
I like to talk, so I'm going to stay on schedule. So first I want to say good afternoon, Reclaim. It's an honor to be before you today seeking the endorsement. My name is Andre Carroll. I'm a Democrat running for state representative in the northwest section of the city up in Germantown, Logan, and West Oakland. I am the product of a mother who's battled with substance abuse since she was the age of 14, and a father who's been incarcerated 95% of my life. I was raised by my maternal grandmother, and I've had an opportunity to be a product of born and raised in the city. I've been an educator, a criminal justice advocate, and I've also had an opportunity to fight alongside progressive organizations like Reclaim. In 2019, I was part of the strategy to get progressive champions like Nicholas O'Rourke as his campaign manager, Kendra Brooks, elected. So it's an honor to be before you today, ask for your support. This is my second time running for this seat. In 2022, I ran against an incumbent who supported things like mandatory minimums, as previously mentioned earlier today, and this is my second time on this rodeo. The difference between the two races is in 2022, there was an incumbent, and in 2024, we don't have an incumbent. In 2022, I was able to get 43% of the vote with your support, and I'm asking for your support the second time around. In this race, because it's open, I have an opportunity to add to the progressive elected officials that happens in Harrisburg and stand beside our city champions to fight dangerous bills like Act 40. So I just want to say thank you guys for the opportunity today. I ask for your support humbly today, and with your support, we can get this done. Thank you.
I do want to mention we had 2 other candidates apply for our endorsement. One of them, Johnny Patterson, has actually withdrawn from the ballot, and Selena Hodge could not make it today. Now I will move on to the state Senate race. I'll be calling up Nikhil Saval, running in the 1st District.
Thank you, Reclaim. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's do it again. Good afternoon. My name is Nikhil Saval. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the state senator for the 1st Senate District, Center City, South Philly, Fishtown, Kensington, Port Richmond, Packer Park, FDR Park, Eastwick, and the Philadelphia Airport. And last but not least, Chinatown. I'm proud to have represented that district since 2021. I was elected in 2020. I stood here 4 years ago running against a 12-year incumbent who ultimately outspent me 3-1, but we won that election with your help by 14 points. We had an idea that we, together with social movements, co-governing with social movements, that we could do big things in Harrisburg, of all places. And what we proved was that you can, if you campaign across the state, if you build power with social movements, if you co-govern, you can make big changes. And one of the biggest changes that we made is that we proposed and adopted, with the help of Reclaim Philadelphia and their housing group, a program called the Whole Home Repairs Program, which is the first of its kind in the nation. It has repaired thousands of homes across the state already. Hundreds of people are getting trained in jobs to repair homes in their community. We are making our homes more climate resilient. We are making our homes more affordable, and we are going to expand that program this year. So thank you for your help. We also brought $113 million in state money back to the 1st Senate District, not for commercial real estate, not for luxury hotels, not for fancy developers, but for parks, recreation centers, cultural institutions. We changed that, and that was the promise that we ran, and we're proud to have brought that back for the communities in need. I love my job. I want to keep doing it. Thank you. I hope for your endorsement, and I want to keep doing it for another 4 years. Thank you.
All right. We're going to move on to the statewide races, and I'm going to call on State Treasurer candidate Aaron McClellan.
How y'all doing, Philadelphia? Thank you so much for having me. I am Erin McClellan, and I am running for state treasurer. I'm going to go past my bio. You're more than welcome to look it up. I'm happy to answer questions. But because most people don't even know we have a state treasurer, I thought I'd actually get into a little bit about the job and how I see it. A big part of this is mostly the state treasurer looks at managing 529 savings accounts, PA Able savings account, and 3 massive pensions, the teachers' pensions, the state workers' pensions, and the municipal workers' pensions. That's the traditional view of the job, and I have some very strong opinions on that. But I actually see an expansive view of this position. First of all, we are having a really, really interesting discussion about what we do with teachers' pensions and workers' pensions, and I can tell you that I'm the only one in this race that has come out unequivocally in divesting our pension money in the conflict in Israel. Not only would I have not doubled down on that investment in October, but in July of last year, when the workers of Israel went on a nationwide strike in protest of what was happening in their own country, I believe we should have followed suit, and we should have stood in solidarity with those workers and made a statement. Thank you. Furthermore, I do not support either of the stance that both my opponents have on the Keystone Savings Program. This is an unregulated, mandated savings program across the state. I call it the George W. Bush Great Recession Starter Kit. The worst part about it, and this should scare you, it is mandated in every small business without a retirement, and if they implement it, every business owner will be required to report the names and identifying information of their workers to the state treasurer. Do we really want that for our service workers and frontline workers in this state? And you know exactly what that turns into if they get it. I think that's about all my time I have. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, and I would love your support.
All right, up next we'll call on candidates for Attorney General. First up is Keir Bradford Gray.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you going to hold it for me? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Bradford Gray, and I am running for Attorney General. I'm running for Attorney General because I deeply care about people. I am for the people. And that role is called the people's lawyer in everywhere but Pennsylvania, where they have labeled it top cop erroneously. Because they want you to believe that this role is like a super district attorney. It is not. It is a role for people who understand the context of working people and how to use that role to protect them against more powerful interests. I have dedicated my career to making sure people get a fair shot in one of the most sophisticated and powerful systems, the justice system. I have fought for people who are disposable to this system and often forgotten, and forced that system to give them fairness and a second chance. But this role can do so much more in the 5 areas that we continue to ask for better opportunities: education, economics, healthcare, public safety, and housing. Housing is something that people need as a staple of stability. And if you're really serious about providing more opportunity to communities, make sure they have stabilities like housing. Attorneys General is stepping up. And I will be the one that steps up because I understand that there are a lot of predators out here. People who are coming in, buying up properties in the neighborhood, pricing people out of those properties. You don't see the legislators legislating that. It is going to be the Attorney General that's going to have to enforce and hold people accountable. I also want to make sure that something that's near and dear to me, that women's right to choose what to do with their body is protected. That is something that is deeply offensive to me, that my daughter is going to have less rights than I had. I will protect our right to vote like no other, because most of the times when they look at voter suppression, it's in vulnerable communities where they disenfranchise voters, even the ones sitting in jails who can vote, who are not given access to the ballot. I understand the issues contextually. I understand the system that I work in. I know the strengths, I know the weaknesses, and I know how to fight it. Time is up. I'm Kira Bradford Gray, and I really would like your support. Thank you.
Up next, I'll call on Eugene DePasquale.
Eugene DePasquale, and I want to be your Attorney General. For 8 years, I took on tough fights as your Auditor General, cracking down on untested rape kits, better protecting children, being the lead fighter against the charter school industry, and also as my investigation exposed how much we were underfunding our school buildings. But my personal story relates why this office is so important. My dad was wounded in Vietnam, shot twice in the right leg, once in the left. The VA prescribed to him synthetic heroin. That led to a 30-year battle with addiction, him dealing in a 10.5-year federal prison sentence. Yes, I'm seeking to become the first child of a convicted felon, elected state attorney in Pennsylvania history. I also know what it's like to struggle. We never had health insurance as a kid. Why? My brother Anthony had muscular dystrophy. He had a pre-existing condition. So I know what it's like, what these insurance companies will do to you if given the chance. When he passed away, I was putting myself through night law school. We had to take out loans to pay for the funeral, and my dad came to the funeral in shackles. That's why we have to turn this war on drugs, the most failed war in American history, into a battle against addiction. And I will be your champion against the insurance industry. And when it comes to reproductive freedom, before we had Ben, our oldest, Tracy had an ectopic pregnancy. She was under anesthesia, and she was bleeding internally. We had to make a decision. And to me, there was no decision. We had to save Tracy. In Oklahoma today, Tracy, myself, and the doctor would be on our way to prison. Well, if I'm your Attorney General, not in Pennsylvania. Not just for the people of Pennsylvania, but for anyone leaving those crazy states and coming here, I will be your attorney too. To make sure we defend our democracy, make sure we protect reproductive freedom, protect the environment, and also be your attorney. And the final point I want to leave you with. I know how to win. I've run twice statewide before, and I've won twice, including once when Trump was on the ballot. You nominate me, I will be your Attorney General fighting for all of us. Thank you very much.
And then next up, we got Joe Kahn.
Hello, Reclaim! My name is Joe Kahn. I use he, him pronouns, and I want to be your next Attorney General to continue my 24-year fight to do the work to keep people safe, not just from crime, but from corruption and attacks on our rights. And I'm running as a Democrat because I am the son of a Pakistani bridge builder who was able to come to this country because we didn't have a president calling on a ban on all Muslims or people from shithole countries. I am also the son of a Catholic nurse who was raised by a single mom because her dad lost his battle with addiction when she was 10 years old. They were able to put food on the table because of a program called Social Security started by Democrats. I am a proud public school parent in the Central Bucks School District where we kicked the Moms for Liberty out of our school board in November. And before that, I was a proud public school graduate of Philadelphia Public Schools. My brother Tarek and I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia because in the 1970s, when a Muslim fell in love with a Catholic, the only place they could raise their kids was a Jewish neighborhood. And when I went off to law school, having a lifetime of always having to figure out how I was going to relate to other people because I always felt different, I met a young professor who had a real inspirational effect on my life. Muslim dad, Christian immigrant mom. He helped me understand that being able to talk to people from all backgrounds wasn't going to be a handicap as a public interest lawyer. It was going to be my superpower. His name was Barack Obama, and my mission became standing up for the marginalized. I came home to Philadelphia, stood up for victims of child abuse, sexual assault, in the DA's office and U.S. Attorney's office. And then I realized that the real fights were in the civil justice arena. I then started suing Big Pharma for the opioid crisis. I took on Big Tech for targeting kids like mine. And I continued that work in Bucks County, where we not only fought the Moms for Liberty, I fought Donald Trump all the way to the United States Supreme Court when he tried to throw out our votes. I was the only county solicitor in Pennsylvania to use my office to defend access to abortion pill. It's the reason I was the only county solicitor in Pennsylvania to enforce our environmental rights. We're going to create an environmental justice unit. That's why I've been endorsed by the Clean Air Action Fund. We're going to start a housing justice, which is why I've been endorsed by my friend Nikhil Saval, but I need your help to do it. My name is Joe Kahn. Please join our coalition and help us get the work done. Thank you, Reclaim.
All right. Next up, I would like to invite all the candidates to come on stage. I'll be giving you some yes/no signs, and we'll go through some rapid-fire yes/no questions.
Oh.
All right, and all these questions were submitted by our members when we were doing outreach for the citywide event. We ask that you just raise up a sign, yes or no, if you agree with the question. So the first one, which Liz touched on in her political analysis. Philadelphia faces intense attacks from the new mayoral administration and city council on harm reduction. They proposed police sweeps, already begun working to make sure nonprofits that do harm reduction like Savage Sisters lose their leases, and have only offered incarceration and forced treatment as the only solutions. The question, will you stand up for harm reduction in Philadelphia and the Commonwealth and recognize its proven impact on stopping the spread of diseases and death in our city?
Thank you.
All right. Anyone? Let me know if somebody doesn't do it. Do you support the abolition of the death penalty in Pennsylvania like Governor Shapiro has called for?
Yep.
The next question has a lot of relevance for Attorney General candidates, but asking more broadly to all candidates as we need a coalition to fight back. A new law that passed, known as Act 40, would effectively remove prosecutorial powers from Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, invalidating the vote of Philadelphians who voted for him in 2 landslide elections. Will you stand with Philadelphians and use your office and voice to fight back against Act 40? The next question, will you commit to refusing to accept money from APAC, the Philly Fraternal Order of Police, and PACs funded by Republican billionaire Jeffrey Yass? Yep. And the last one, An overwhelming majority of our members asked specifically for us to ask around this. Do you support a ceasefire in occupied Palestine and the safe return of all hostages by the Israeli government and Hamas? All for all. There we have it. Thanks everybody for joining us today, all the candidates. And I will now call on our board member, Tyrell Brown, for the next section. All candidates are free to stay, or if you gotta go, we understand.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Hi, Julia. So everybody, I'm going to do a membership pitch right now. So if we could all take a moment right now, because this is a very important part of what Reclaim does. Our organization isn't just about endorsing candidates. It's a very important part of what we do. But we also are about power building, community building, and those are crucial parts of how we rescue our city and how we ensure that our future in Philadelphia is just and liberty is being ensured for all people, especially the most marginalized in our communities. I want to share a few words with you about my personal story, but before I do that, I do want to say thank you and extend thank you to the current board of Reclaim and also the staff at Reclaim, because I've been dealing with a lot of personal things, and I wanted to make sure that I extended my thank you to all of you. Also, I wanted to share also my pronouns are they, he, and I'm a board member here in addition to many other hats that I wear in the city of Philadelphia. And it's endorsement time here at Reclaim, which is kind of funny. I ran for two different things. I ran for committee person and I lost. I ran for state rep and I was cut out of the district, but then I ran for board member at Reclaim and I won. So, which is a very, very important race to win, right? I'm unapologetically queer and black here in Philadelphia. And I'm honored to be here sharing this membership pitch with you all during Black History Month. I'm going to share a few words about what this organization means to me. I grew up with a family that I largely call nomadic. So we were between Delaware County, West Philadelphia, Center City. My uncle actually died just 2 blocks away from here of AIDS, which when we're talking about harm reduction, a lot of people don't realize that harm reduction comes out of the AIDS crisis. So when we're talking about eliminating harm reduction, we're also talking about eliminating care and concern for people who are most marginalized in our communities, particularly Black trans women who are 9 times more likely to contract the HIV virus. We are also dealing with an emerging crisis of youth, which I believe it's 18 to 25-year-olds right now in Philadelphia, who are 25% of them, the new cases anyway, are of youth 18 to 25 years old. We can't afford to not endorse people and turn our backs on people who are marginalized in Philadelphia. We were poor in my family, as many people will tell their stories here, and I think we need to recognize that in Reclaim, when we share our personal stories about what we've been through, it's about how we bond and build community. We have neighbors that have different experiences and they come from different backgrounds, but when we share those personal stories, this is how we raise awareness about the fights that we need to take on and that we desperately need to win so that we can have resources and services ensured to our communities. It wasn't until I was an adult, though, that I experienced homelessness. When I was moving back from DC in 2017, I basically came back to Philadelphia. I had no money. I think I always quote $17, but it could have been less. I packed my things into a friend's basement, And I'll never forget the first night that I slept outside and what that felt like, the powerlessness that I felt in that moment. And I don't even remember falling asleep. I just remember waking up. And I woke up before the sun came up, which I always feel lucky about, because it was before people were going around and going to work, so I didn't have to deal with that shame and embarrassment. But it didn't go away. That was in 2016, actually, not 2017. But eventually I found a job. I went back to teaching. I was teaching preschool. I worked 3 jobs, about 80 hours a week. I worked retail right after I was finished teaching, and then I also worked at an adult bookstore overnight as well. So I was working 80 hours a week, and I still was making just barely enough to scrape by, because teachers in Philadelphia, preschool teachers on average make about $11 an hour, which is a crime. It's a crime. So then, in about 2019, Bernie Sanders was running for office, and I heard this person, this old Jewish man on TV, screaming about the things that I was passionate about. So I wanted to get involved, and I was posting things on social media, and before you know it, some random person was like, you should join Philly for Bernie. So I did join Philly for Bernie. And before you know it, I was running around the city like a maniac, knocking doors. And then Anlin Wang, decided to tell me one day at the first meeting that I had ever been to for a grassroots organization, said, you should run for office. And I took that and stuck it in the back of my head. And then he said, you should join Reclaim. And I did. It was probably the most important time in my organizing. What people don't understand often about Reclaim is that we do elect leaders and put them in office, but one of the biggest values that we have is that we teach people skills, both implicit and on purpose. We teach people how to be leaders in community. And because of the leadership that Reclaim has instilled in me, I ran for office, but then I also accepted a position at another nonprofit being the deputy director, which then led me to being the executive director now of that organization, and also facilitating the 2 largest record-breaking Pride festivals in Philadelphia history. And that's no small feat. That's no small feat. That in that time period when trans rights are being attacked, that we were able to draw in so many people to these events, so that way we can make sure that people have resources and services. So I'm proud to say that I'm a Reclaim member. I'm proud to say that I'm a board member, and I'm proud to say that without Reclaim, I would not be where I am right now. So I am asking all of you to join with us today. So I started out as a Reclaim member, and I think my dues that I was paying was $1. Because I didn't have any money. And I think, honestly, I think that might have bounced a couple of times too. My account lapsed, which cost like $35 because you know how that works. But now I am a dues paying member at $50. And what we generally ask is that people join Reclaim and pay $27 a la Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020. So I'm asking for you all to join with us, not to just be able to vote to endorse people, because that is a crucial part. You all play a crucial role, and actually you play the role in making sure that we elect people that are here to serve you in Harrisburg, here to serve you in City Council, here to serve you in Washington, D.C., frankly. You are the crucial cog in that. So I want you all to join with me to take the benefits of that, but also to take the benefits of the leadership development, the organization development, the community building that we all are so proud to represent here in this room today. I used to always think to myself, coming to Reclaim meetings, would I ever be up here holding the microphone? And here I am, right? So yes, please take a moment, see Tamara and Adams in the back, and join Reclaim, and join with me so we can fight for a better future for Philadelphia, for Pennsylvania, and for the world. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly.
Thank you, Ty. So just the next part of the meeting is the last part of the meeting, breakout groups. Meet your neighbors. There are parts all over we've got West Philly, North. You can see the signs. Go there. Your neighborhood leaders will be there from the neighborhood groups. Also write how you're feeling about the general election and the calling for a ceasefire in Gaza on that board, and vote on political education here. Finally, if you have a ballot, hand it in to the ushers as you're leaving, or hand it in at the front desk. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Just a quick logistics note, for those who live in South Philly, west of Broad, the breakout room is downstairs. So go out towards the main door and take the stairs down. And the Northeast group is going to be meeting upstairs in the gallery here. Thank you.